The SuccessDay podcast. Here we deep dive into people technology, talking to inspiring guests about the future of HR.
People will be afraid of AI, and I'm sure that there are people that are thinking, hey, my job is gone. And some jobs might disappear, but in the majority of jobs, they might be enhanced by using AI.
Welcome to the SuccessDay podcast. I'm here with Daniel Bosman, VP Transformation, Technology and Analytics at Technip.
Almost there. So first of all, thank you for asking me, Bas, to join you on this video podcast. So my new job title, only since 2 weeks, is indeed Vice President for People and Culture, Transformation and Analytics.
That will be a long business card.
It will be a long business card indeed. So let's, but we'll keep it short. Not that many business cards anymore anyway.
Again, welcome. Can you explain a bit what you have been doing in the past years, but also what does your new function entail?
Yeah, no problem. So I've been working now for almost 20 years with Technip Energies. Technip Energies is a company in the energy transition sector. We are designing and building a lot of complex installations that help us in the energy transformation that everybody wants to go through. I've always been a generalist. So HR business partner, HR manager, HR director in various countries and various places across Europe. Since 3.5 years ago, I took over a role that was called VP of HR Service Delivery. And within that role, I was responsible for 3 pillars. First pillar was P&C technology. So what were all the applications that we had on a global as well as on a local level? Second pillar was everything to do with people and culture, data and analytics. And the third pillar, everything to do with service delivery, which included in Technip Energies, all the payroll, as well as some of the transactional people and culture activities, especially within the employee life cycle. So that was my role until 2 weeks ago. Now, like I said, I'm taking over I'm in a new role, which is called Transformation and Analytics. The analytics pillar, exactly the same as it was in my previous role, so taking over that one. And on the transformation, that is still, I would say that we're still refining and detailing exactly what it will be focused on. But obviously, focus on the one side of the efficiency of the entire P&C function that we have, as well as looking after everything that we are going to do and will do with AI within people and culture as well.
Thanks. That's very helpful. First, looking back, when you started in the previous role at Technip, how was it organized, and what did you change? How did your roadmap look like in the let's say the past years?
So maybe let's describe a little bit first about how big Technip Energies and how it's set up there. So basically, Technip Energies is a company with approximately between 18,000 and 20,000 employees. We have presence in more than 30 countries. Headquarters is based in Paris. We have an HR department or a people and culture department that basically consists of various COEs. So we've got a COE of total rewards. We've got a COE of people development. We've got obviously our HR teams with HR business partners, talent acquisition, etc. in the local offices as well. Within my team, especially when we look at P&C technology and all the applications, we had the product owners that were part of my team, and we had a subset of a team that was called the P&C Techno Generalists. The product owners, more central team. The P&C Techno Generalists were divided in the different geographical areas where we are based. That team was responsible for the change management, as well as supporting the product owners with the testing of our applications when doing user acceptance testing and things like that. The product owners obviously very much needed to be aware of what our clients, our internal, the COEs or the global process owners wanted to see from the tools, as well as then working together with our IT team where the product leads were sitting. And that was a close collaboration together, obviously, with external partners consisting of our suppliers, as well as some of the integrators in the landscape as well.
And Daniel, we know each other quite some time now, and I knew you as a people technology enthusiastic. But where did it all start?
Yeah, it's a very good question actually, and I can't pinpoint one single reason. I think what for me is really interesting about the topic is there are so many developments ongoing. I'm a person that likes to learn, and I'm a person that is very open-minded. I'm always interested to read, to listen to podcasts, to read articles, what is the latest coming out on developments that are there within the people and culture function, but also in the wider technology space. And that for me is what is driving my passion for this topic. And I mean, when I see the developments and how fast they are going, and you can see the opportunities for us as a function, but also for the end users, for systems to be more simple. I think that that's a real benefit. Second of all, I think when we look at the P&C function or the HR function or whatever you call it, quite often has a bad reputation. Doesn't have the reputation of being at the forefront of processes, quite often seen as a blocker, quite the systems, quite clumsy sometimes. And I think we've got an opportunity as a function and really embracing technology to change that perception and to be at the forefront of a digital transformation and helping our organization. But it means that we first need to do it within our function, because then we were truly able also to guide the rest of the business to go through the digital transformations that I think every company is going through.
And if you look at the landscape, you talk about, I know you use Oracle as main
Yeah.
system. Do you have other tools than Oracle HCM?
Yeah. So
And of course, why?
yeah, no problem. So we're using Oracle as our indeed foundation, so as a core HCM system. We also use Oracle for our recruitment activities, for our talent management activities, as well as our compensation and benefits activities. That was a conscious decision already taken probably 4 or 5 years ago, because we knew that we were going to implement the entire ERP suite on Oracle product as well. And as of today, we are live in the majority of our countries with our Oracle ERP as well. So that was a conscious decision to have everything almost in one platform. On top of that, we've got, for example, Cornerstone On Demand for learning. And that was already a system that we worked with and had for a long, long time, and we were quite satisfied with. So we didn't see the need at that moment to really transform or transition that to Oracle as well. We also have ServiceNow that we're using for knowledge management and ticket management. And that was also, again, a very pragmatic decision being taken because our colleagues of IT were already using that same system for exactly the same purpose of knowledge management and ticket management. So we decided, okay, are we going to really explore going into something new, or are we going to use something that we already have and that we know is working well? So we decided to go for that route, and we implemented Ask P&C, as we called it at that time. Now the whole integrated module is called Ask 10, where employees and managers can ask the questions that they have either to IT, either to HR. On top of that, there are 2 different other tools. One is very niche, Topia, which is we are using for global mobility and the management of global mobility. We've got in our line of business quite a lot of experts all around the world. And to manage that in a good and proper way, we felt the need to have a separate tool for that. And last but not least is Cruncher that we're using for all our, I would say, data and analytics part. Again, a conscious decision to go for a different tool than for Oracle Analytics. We wanted something that was more user-friendly, more pragmatic, and we felt that we were stumbling across some challenges when using Oracle and looking into especially the analytics part of that. We made a decision, and we now also created a kind of a data visualization approach that basically consists of 4 quadrants, but I will explain 2 of them. One is everything that is in Oracle that we're using on, I would say, operational level, and on a that could be either during the recruitment, either during campaigns like the performance appraisal campaign, where we need live data, we're using the Oracle analytics part. Anything where we are using for, and what we are doing with demographics, so workforce demographics, but also looking at headcount evolutions and really deep diving into some of the analytics related to that, we're using Cruncher. So we take a snapshot currently on a monthly basis, that might increase in the years to come, currently on a monthly basis, so that we have one single source of truth. Because what we saw in the past was that people were discussing about, hey, I've got, 500 people in this operating center, and I've got 530. Where's the difference coming from? And quite often it was because either the definitions were not aligned, so the extract was made with a different kind of subset, either the extract was made in a different date, which obviously then has an impact as well. So we said with the monthly snapshots, we know there's one single source of truth that we're using towards the business, as well as within HR, as well as the COEs. So that is the journey that we've gone through, at least until now.
I think it's smart what you say, that you not only implement a new tool to solve a certain business issue, but also think of how do we govern it. And I specifically point that out because that's, at least from my experience, where it sometimes goes wrong with companies. They think, I buy a new tool that will solve all my problems. But if you not think about the underlying governance and how do we do it and how do we communicate it, I hear you say that as well.
I mean, I've seen, if I look back on how we have done some of these journeys, and this is exactly one of the things. First of all, what is the problem that we're really trying to solve? Secondly, was there really a business case? I've seen very good problem statements. I've seen excellent examples of, yes, we can automate this process. But if you then really recalculate of what is the business case and is there a return on investment, in many of the cases there wasn't. So, okay, that needs to be a conscious decision there. And there could still be good reasons to do it. I mean, if you want to go for one way of working on a global way, yes, that could still be a reason despite there not being a real business case from a monetary value point of view. Just when I look at the different type of solutions that we've implemented and the challenges that we faced there as well was indeed, do we have global processes? And quite often I've seen a COE very eagerly looking at the possibility to implement a very fancy, interesting tool without really having thought, do we really have already the global processes designed? Do we really have all our different users following these global processes? And on top of that, do we really have the clear end game in mind? So do we know what type of data, what type of reporting we want to get out of it? And my experience so far, without those three aspects, an implementation can be done, but it will be very hard to get the adoption then done as well. And that's why I like your comment about governance. Quite often we think about governance in a project setting. We forget about the governance in the run setting. And that is what I've seen in some of the occasions that we are dealing with as well. So I don't think we are the exception, but it's good to realize it, and it's good to then at least try to address it.
Yeah, and that one of the questions I had, and maybe this is already the answer, but I will ask the question anyhow. If you have done a lot of projects, I know, and I always ask, what are now the biggest lessons learned? You can also say, this was my biggest mistake, but I'd rather talk about lessons learned. Is this the lessons learned out of your 2-decade career or 3-decade career? Or is there something else that pops to mind when I ask this question?
For me, these are some of the lessons learned, but another one, and a key one that I always tell to all of my team members as well, is stakeholder management. Think about who are all your stakeholders in the project, and think about that very carefully. And sometimes stakeholders that you didn't think about immediately might pop up in a later stage. I will give a very simple example. We were implementing AFAS in the Netherlands, and we thought we had mapped out all the stakeholders. We forgot a very important group, the secretaries. Without the secretaries being really engaged and really understanding and I mean, they were basically the left and the right hand of many of the departmental managers, and answering quite often the questions from the employees as well, instead of maybe them going to the P&C department. So that means that group was not addressed in the right way. It meant that we had to do a kind of a reset, had to sit down with them, took them on the journey with us. Implementation made our life so much smoother with them being onboarded. It's just a simple example, but I think that it goes back to who are all the stakeholders. And I see that the same now when we are doing a transition in relation to a new organization implementation. Trying to implement a new organization structure sounds easy, but if you have got a landscape of, I don't know, maybe 100 different systems, if you've got a landscape of all these different functions like cost control, finance, commercial organization, etc., to identify all the different subgroups that we need to be there and to get them aligned, it's quite a cumbersome process.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. Different topic. There's always been a discussion on best of breed or best of system, and recently I had a CHO here also in the podcast, and we were brainstorming a bit and came to the conclusion. And I like to have your view on the conclusion we had. We said because AI is coming, AI is working much better the more data is in the system. So we think, this is my view, is that it will move more to best of system, and that you might have a couple of niche tools, like you use Cruncher for that data analytics, but the majority will go into one system. Is that also, if I try to explain something that you say, it makes sense, or do you have a different view?
I think it makes sense. Although I am really trying to follow all the developments in AI. I mean, what is AI exactly? And how do you think that we're actually going to use it? And if I see the developments in that landscape of AI over the last, I would say, 2 years, it seems to be accelerating week by week. If I see the amount of articles, talks coming out, seminars being done on the topic, it's very hard to follow. What I think it's about that we need to make sure of is that we are aligned on the data structures, and that we understand really the definitions that we put behind our data. And AI sounds very sexy, and everybody wants a chatbot, and everybody wants the latest AI features because we think it always will be cheaper, faster, etc. And sometimes that will be true. And I'm a strong believer in that AI will bring good opportunities. It will help employees to become more efficient. However, I think we still have a lot of not so sexy activities to do. For example, document control, data management, the focus on indeed continuous journey on data quality. It's a very long, elaborate. I'm trying to come to the answer to your question, which I think in the end we'll need to have, whether it's in one system or in one data platform, and that could be in the cloud. You need one place where all the data sits and where the definitions have been clarified and where the data quality is good. Then I think it doesn't matter too much whether it's coming from different data sources, yes or no. But as long as you've got your analytics and AI related activities can pool the information from one data platform, I think that should be the right strategy.
So next question. If I look at the upper right Gartner quadrants, right, we all know that you have roughly 4 players: Dayforce, Workday, Oracle, SuccessFactors. And in the past, I know specifically Workday had that one Workday, one code line. SuccessFactors not. There was a talent management system. They bought new technology to make that a full platform. And Oracle started, I would say, from scratch again. Recently, I saw Workday and SuccessFactors, they changed their strategy. They are buying the scale-ups with the latest technology to keep up and get the knowledge in their company. Oracle, I don't see that they do the same. They currently leverage on their own strengths. And I was asking myself, is this now a real strength or is this a risk? Do you have an idea or opinion on this difficult question.
Yeah, it is a difficult question. First of all, because my experience is limited to Oracle product. So I don't know the other products that you obviously have heard about them, I've seen them, but I've not worked with them. So it's a little bit difficult to fully grasp it. On the other side, what I have seen from and in my discussions with Oracle is that there's truly believe indeed in their strategy in relation to having all the data in the one single platform, having everything then also, as they call, integrated. Whether that's completely true, I dare to still challenge a little bit. If I see the differences or the amount of data that is not automatically flowing from one submodule to another, between HCM and the ERP, there's still some challenges that we have there. I feel it really depends on what is the problem that you're trying to solve, as we mentioned before. Are we really trying to, is there really a need for a specific different system, or are the Oracle features good enough to address the challenges that you might have in your organization? As mentioned before, for example, we in our organization, we had a specific need and challenge with our management of our expat population. And we felt there was something missing into the offering and then the process flows and especially also the communication part that we had with our expats. And we said, okay, is there a system in the market that can address it in a different way? So there was a specific problem statement. There was a specific assessment being done. Can Oracle provide with a proper solution on this? Or do we feel together with the COE there's a need to look for something different? And in the end, that decision was being made. The same for analytics part. Yes, obviously I can see the advantage of having live data and live information. And yes, obviously Oracle can facilitate as well in a different way the snapshot management of data as well. But our experience was that the Oracle product, at least on the analytics part, was not that user-friendly, as well as for the integration and the implementation. We were more convinced with Cruncher being able to provide the right support based on all the feedback that we got from our peers in the industry as well, saying, hey, Cruncher will really help you with going from A to Z within the process of implementation. And with that, we found a very, I would say, compelling argument as well to really go for a different system because we wanted to show that the data is really going to be part of our journey going forward.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
What's now the coolest new module, new feature you have seen in the people tech space in the past years? And what's the most overrated?
Such a difficult question. I think, once again, I think it depends on your reference framework as well. So I think what has brought us the most so far is two things, actually. One, I think the implementation of Ask PNC, which was really becoming the platform for all the employees to ask questions to the PNC community. And we rolled it out. And if I see the adoption and the amount of, I say always 3 KPIs that I look at when I look at that. One is, what are the amount of tickets that have been raised? Secondly, what was the time it took for the teams to close out the questions? But thirdly, most importantly, what was the CSAT score as well? And especially looking at the CSAT score in combination with the amount of tickets, but especially the time of closing, that was for me something that I always really refer to. Is it sexy? No. Was it important for us? Yes. Second one, I go back to Cruncher, which I think is really going to be, already has been, but is going to be even more really something that is going to help our HR business partners to be really that partner towards the business and really providing them with insights on the populations and on the developments. Again, sexy, maybe not. Very valuable for us to make that next step in our journey. Yes, I think so. Overrated. I think what was interesting. So last year, we implemented 4 AI features that Oracle was offering in relation to recruitment. This year, 3 of them, we are actually now in discussion of maybe decommissioning again. So you can wonder, hey, Daniel, that seems to be a counterproductive activity. And yes, it has been. But sometimes you need to go through that journey to find out, is there really an added value of the AI
especially with new
features as well?
technology. Yeah?
Especially with new technology. Sometimes you need to, bump your head and realize, hey, is it really adding value? So let me give you a little bit of context on that. First of all, I doubt if we really understood the AI features that we were going to implement. Did we really understood the algorithms behind them? Did we really understood what the added value was going to be? I have some doubts on that. Is that then a bad thing? No, like we said, sometimes you need to bump your head. So that's fine. Secondly, I think we also realized, looking at the new EU AI Act, that obviously with penalties will kick in by August of 2026, there's a lot of governance to be done and a lot of mitigation measures. And if you then again take that in perspective with the added value and the usage that you see of the AI features by your TA community, we said, is it worthwhile doing all of these mitigation measures to be compliant with this regulation? Or do we say, well, actually, let's decommission because we can focus and use the time that we will then not spend on all these mitigation measures on other things to really drive the TA function further? So those are the, I would say, is it maybe overrated? It was at least interesting for us to go through that process, and it makes us realize, hey, whenever there are very sexy things like AI-related features, you still need to be very careful and conscious and think in detail what is going to be the added value, short-term, long-term. How are the users going to perceive it? Is there really an added value, yes or no?
You also took people analytics to your new role. I think smart move, by the way. I think that's getting more and more interesting. But people analytics, what are the metrics that you can now report and really add value to the business or solve a business problem which you couldn't, let's say, a decade ago?
Yeah. A decade is a long time ago.
5 years.
So I think, first of all, the one single source of truth, and once again, maybe not rocket science, but key, is really to have alignment on what is the data that we have in our systems, and them being one single source of truth being used in that. If we look at KPIs that we're now measuring, I mean, there's nothing really too new in there. We're just reporting, I would say, from a CSRD perspective, we're trying to make sure that we're aligning and automating all the reporting requirements there. We are having the demographic data that we have. Obviously, there are some predictive capabilities in there, but we are not there yet in our journey. And I'm really looking forward to explore those. But for the moment, I'm already happy with the journey that we're making, that we have one single source of truth, one reference framework, a set of definitions that is all aligned, and that the business as well as HR is using that same data to have the conversations and to provide them at least with some insights on the basic of the demographics and what's happening on employee turnover, what's happening in what is the reasons for people who are leaving. Do we see any specifics per OC in relation to gender differences? That could be on talent management, that could be on talent acquisition, that could be on promotions. Do we see anything insightful related to different age categories and seniority within the organization? And I think that the journey of really seeing what adds the most amount of value, again, what are the business problems that we have, challenges that we have, and how can the data support us to make actually the right decisions or to decide what is the right pathway forward to implement actions to address these problems that the business is facing.
And if I understand you correctly, then and listening to you, then you're now having the data, you have one system, and the next step will be being also more predictive, looking at future.
Correct. So we're now still doing these, I would say, snapshots, looking at the evolutions, quarterly evolutions, annual evolutions of our, I would say, the traditional data that you have as HR and you're looking at. The predictive part will come. What we did do already 2 years ago is using, what do you call it, AI or big data management is an example that I can share as well. So every year we have got a mid-year development review. That's a process where line managers sit with the employees. So that in our organization, that's around between 12 to 15,000 employees that are eligible for that process. We go through that process. They identify how do I see my current phase in my career? Where would I like to go? What do I need to get there? And everything is being captured there. So we had a discussion with talent management and then also with learning and development. And we said, okay, learning and development, how are you using that data to actually define what is your curriculum for next year? What is your learning offering that you're going to offer as your 10 university in the 2-3 years to come? And they actually said, hardly using that data. We're doing more individual qualitative with some of the COEs or experts in certain areas. We're doing some interviews and that will determine. I said, but how great would it be if we could actually get more insights based on 15,000 people providing this input, you being able to analyze. And I understand that you're not going to spend time to go through 15,000 forms. So there we created a mechanism indeed to analyze the data and to come either on geographical, country-wise, per OC, per business unit, and as a group as a total. What are the 5 or 10 really, I would say, trends or changes or key aspects that came out from a learning and development perspective on which they could base then what is our path forward for the next 2-3 years? Where do we need to build or buy more learning and development content for? So that is an example how we are using data as well. And this was already 2 years ago, and I'm looking forward to see how can we do that even more.
Very nice.
Obviously, another part that I forgot, a key indicator, nothing to do with Cruncher, but to do with our annual survey. We're still there in an annual survey. Maybe we should consider, and that will be part of the new role that I will have as well, to really challenge and see, can we do that a little bit more on a frequent basis, having more pulse surveys. But our employee engagement survey is obviously a key measurement for us as an organization as well. And we're very happy to see that there was a positive trend over the last 3 to 4 years, both in participation as well as in the employee engagement scoring.
We're now coming slowly to the end of this podcast, and then I always say we start dreaming. So I have 1 or 2 questions, but the first question I have, if you start dreaming, if you would talk to the software vendors that are creating great software, great technology to solve business issues, if you close your eyes, how could they help you? What's functionality that you're missing or dreaming of that it will be there in, let's say, 2 or 3 years from now?
Great question. I think what will be really important is we need to realize that the user interface is changing. Where we currently, at least in our systems, are still quite traditional with having click the button here, go there, click here, drop down menu, etc. I think we need to realize that all the user interfaces will go to a chatbot. Whether you speak to them, it still feels uncomfortable to me to speak to something like a computer. But whether you type the question, that is, I think, up to personal preferences. But that will be the single interface to first provide, to get data, but also to get actions done. That for me is a certain. So my request would be to really think on that. How can we facilitate that in the best way, but also with an integrated way? Because in the end, you will have still different systems where you might keep certain data and where certain actions will be triggered. And that means that these systems need to talk to each other in a uniform, integral way with obviously the right security setup as well, which is something that people tend to forget as well. But that is going to be a key element there as well. And last but not least, I think we also should keep in mind, and then I'm talking from a diversity and inclusion perspective, that not everybody will be able to talk to a computer. Not everybody will be able maybe to see a screen. So we also need to think, as providers, they need to think about how do we make sure that our systems are as inclusive as can be. And that is something that I would challenge the current providers on, and to assess, are our systems really able to fulfill those needs?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. If I look now at, for example, Claude, how that works is you can actually speak to it or you type, but it also shows, okay, got it. I'm now going to do this. I'm now going to do this, and I think that creates already an atmosphere that it's a fellow virtual human.
Yeah,
that reasons, and I think that's the direction where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely.
AI, we're all talking about AI every day now.
Yeah.
In a company who let's say owns AI, who is responsible for leveraging AI? Is that people? Is that IT? Is somebody else?
I think it's a collective. I mean, there are so many elements to AI. There's an element of data. And I think the data ownership lies with everybody. It lies with the people doing self-service, employee self-service, manager self-service, where the input of data is happening. It lies with the teams that are putting the data in. It lies with COEs determining the definitions of the data. It lies with the data protection officer, helping us to really understand what are the guardrails that we need to put in place. In our organization, we've got a team within our IT department that is really looking after the responsible AI aspect. What does it mean from a legislation point of view, but also what do we as a company consider as responsible AI? And how do we make sure that all our AI features that we're implementing are fulfilling and are within those guardrails? And what are the mitigation measures that we need to put in place? Yes, there's an important role for IT, depending on your organization setup. Partly might be with product owners in your HR team as well. But in the end, it is not only a technological problem or challenge or excitement, whatever a sticker you want to put on it. I think it's an organizational aspect. And that means if it is an organizational aspect, quite often it's a human aspect. And this is where also people in culture will have an important role to play, not only on the technological side and input, no, really taking people with us on the journey. What does it mean for their roles? What does it mean towards using data? How do we really take them on the journey to really understand what they can do, can't do, and how they should embrace it? Because yes, people will be afraid of AI. And I'm sure that there are people that are thinking, hey, my job is gone. And some jobs might disappear. But in the majority of jobs, they might be enhanced by using AI, like we were enhanced by the implementation of a computer or the implementation of the internet or whatever. And we always have had these type of cycles in the past where we have said, all the jobs will be gone. I personally don't believe in that. Will it have a huge impact? Yes. How do we take the people on the journey for that? And there will be new jobs again created that we currently don't even think of. So how do we upskill and reskill people? That will be, I think, also a really important role of us as people in culture function, but also of line managers, and really encouraging their team and to make the assessment there to say, hey, what's the impact on the roles that I have in my team, and how do I take the people in my team on that journey as well?
Thanks, Daniel. And if you want to know more, please go to the SuccessDay website or listen at Spotify.